Okay, I'm listening to W1 GHZ beaconing here on Rain Scatter. This wide trace on the left is W1 GHZ. The narrow trace just above him is N1 JEZ beacon, and the other narrow trace over here on the right is VE2 TWO beacon. So I'm getting really good copy on W1 GHZ. Interestingly, he has a much wider signal, much more frequency spreading on him than either of the two beacons, but good solid copy there. If I had transmit capability, I bet we could work without any difficulty. I'm listening to the temporary N1BUG 10 gig beacon I put up on the hill at the repeater site earlier today. So there's a lot of rapid fluctuation in the signal strength there, which I think is probably due to trees moving around in the wind. This beacon is located about 5.6 miles or 9 kilometers away from my station. Up at the repeater site, it's running about 5 milliwatts to a tiny WA5VJB log periodic dipole array built on a little piece of PC board. Inside the building, up on the hill and shooting through a bunch of trees, and it's a little breezy today, so the trees would be moving around. So it's got a lot of strikes against it. I'm sure there's a lot of signal loss going through the building and the trees. This is just a temporary beacon. I'm still working on design and construction of a permanent beacon which will go up on the tower at that site eventually and run more power than this. But I just put this one up there to give myself a little test signal and something to play with here in the meantime. I've had it up there before and I just returned it to the hill today, since I've now got the dish up here and I can hear it pretty well. So this is the beacon I have up on the hill, the temporary beacon. It's improvised from two pieces of microwave test equipment that I put together about a year ago. The unit on the bottom in the silver aluminum box there that says microwave weak signal source is just that. It's an old synthesizer board out of something modified to produce a signal at 1152 megahertz and harmonics of that. So it produces signals at 2304, 3456, 5760, 10,368, and probably 24,192 megahertz, and just radiates them a bit from the board itself. The only piece of it I'm using for this beacon is the 10 megahertz OCXO as a stable signal source. That's also built into that box. So I'm using the OCXO in there, feeding the 10 megahertz out into the box on top. The box on top, with all the knobs and buttons and stuff there, and the digital display, is a RF power meter and return loss meter primarily that I built, that I'm actually not using since I was gifted a wonderful HP 432A power meter. But this is still a useful piece of equipment, and the RF signal generator inside is a VHF design PLL board, which generates a few milliwatts of RF on any frequency from 50 megs to over 10 gigs. I forget if it's 12 gigs or what the upper limit is now, but it can also do CW beacon keying. So I built this box to have auxiliary outputs on the back where I can get the RF and use it as a portable beacon. And you can also see in one of these photos here the little antenna on the top, the little green PC board there, a little tiny log periodic dipole array that covers from 2 to 11 gigs. So a tiny little antenna and inside the building, but good enough for my purposes. It gives me a beacon that I can listen to here at home until I get the permanent one for this site finished.